Two difficult questions, though. Oh my
I
goodness.
don't think they're that hard.
Yeah, I think
Welcome
you
to
guys
the
ask great questions. I've watched your show before.
yeah. So welcome to the Holistic Kid Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Imad.
And my name is Kasim.
We're the Holistic Kids Kitchen, educating us kids from the inside out.
Well,
We
it's great
have
to meet you.
we have passed 100 episodes of our podcast.
So we are so honored to have been with us on this journey.
We have spoken to so many amazing people on this. Kids can thrive to our fullest potential.
There is so much we don't get taught in school, and that is why we are doing this podcast to bring you and latest information straight from the world's renowned experts.
Renowned
Experts.
So we are so excited to bring you today to one and only host of the My Child Will Thrive podcast. Tara Hunkin is that how it's
You
pronounced?
said it right. Perfect.
A nutritional therapy practitioner, certified GAPS practitioner, or GAPS, mother and founder of My Child Will Thrive, a resource that shares with you the latest science tips, resources, and tools to help you on the path to recover for your child and with ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorder, or learning disabilities. Tara's own experiences with her daughter, combined with as much training she can get with her hands on research, she can dig into the conferences she attends, have help. She has helped her to develop systems and tools for parents who feel overwhelmed, trying to help their children thrive.
And today, with over 80 episodes, we can't wait to find out what she learned so we can thrive.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Go ahead.
You have done so much amazing work. We would love to hear your story.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. I understand this is 101 episodes today. That is a lot. That is a lot of information and a lot of people you're helping. So thank you for doing what you're doing and letting me come on the show today too. I started something just like you guys did because I was frustrated with the information that was out there and available for us. Because when I had my first daughter, who is now, she's 19 and she's thriving and she's in college. But when I first had her, she wasn't developing the way that we were told. So I don't know if you've seen those books around your house too with your mom. You guys got a big family there, and you've got a new little brother as well, little brother. So parents are always looking for certain developmental milestones that happen as their children after they're born, as they progress. Even before they're born, we're looking for what happens during different phases of pregnancy as well. But when your child doesn't hit those milestones or starts their development doesn't look the same as what you're told is what it should be, then you start to worry. And I started when my daughter was having trouble with things like she wasn't speaking enough words at the right age. She wasn't walking independently at the right age. She was struggling in environments like noisy environments. It made her really, really bothered her and irritated her. She was super frustrated. There were a lot of things that were going on with her that just weren't what they would say would be typical. So I started to search for how I could help her. And when I went to my doctor, my regular, her general practitioner, they gave me some resources, but the information and advice I was getting was not very encouraging. And it was that we were going to be struggling with these things for her entire life. And that we started to work with the things that they gave us, which were things like speech therapy, and there's occupational therapy, and there's a lot of great people that are doing that kind of work. but we weren't making a ton of progress. So I started the internet wasn't as big as it is now, because she's now 19. So that was quite a long time ago when I started looking for resources. And eventually, many years into the process, I came across the book about the GAPS diet. And you mentioned that I'm a GAPS certified practitioner, and that's the Gut and Psychology Syndrome book by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. And she's a doctor that discovered early on, and now we all know that the gut and the brain are connected, but a lot of people didn't understand that back then. And she came up with a dietary protocol to help restore the gut, the microbiome, to help then alleviate some of these neurological symptoms that a lot of kids were having. So that's sort of where I started. And I used to be, back in the day, I was a chartered accountant, which is also the same as a CPA in the US. And so I came from a background of finance, and then became a nutritionist, and then started My Child Will Thrive to bring together all the different resources and experts like your mom and so many of the other amazing practitioners out there to help educate the parents that are struggling to find solutions for their kids, so their kids can feel better and live better and live to their fullest potential.
With chronic disease and mental health issues on a rise, what do you think kids are struggling today?
So I believe that the reason why we're seeing such an increase is because of environmental factors. So we know that our genes, and we don't evolve as human beings, or beings their genes don't change this rapidly. That takes really, really long time. But what's happened really quickly in the last, you could say 30, 40, 50, 100 years, is that our environment has changed. So the types of food, highly processed foods, a lot of the environmental toxicants that are available out there, chemicals that are being used either in all the different convenience products that we have out there, as well as in our farming. The type of exposures like EMFs, so a lot of the frequencies we were exposed to a lot more screens and different types of frequencies, and we're just not getting outside as much. So I think our environment has changed so much, and our kids are growing up in a very different way than they did hundreds of years ago even. And that's why we're seeing more and more kids that are struggling with so many different neurodevelopmental challenges, because all those environmental factors play a role in whether or not we develop our brains properly as we grow up.
So you have had so many amazing guests on your podcast, including our mom.
Yeah.
What are the key points that us kids need to add to our lives to thrive?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. So I think it's interesting. I was listening to your podcast with, oh my goodness, I'm having one of those moments, those moments where you can't remember very well who it is. It was about light. And I know Dr. Catherine Clinton. So she was talking about light. You did an entire wonderful podcast. It was so good. I hope that people who haven't listened to it go back and listen to that one. But one of the things that she was talking about in there is about the whole idea of getting outside in light, in nature. And I'd say that that's probably one of the number one things that we don't do these days as much as we can be doing. There's lots of reasons. She talked about all the reasons around light exposure, but doing things like just playing in the dirt and climbing trees and all those things, that's also a sensory experience for kids as they're developing. It also, that helps with brain development and the ability to integrate all your senses. So being able to touch things like, feeling the texture of grass versus, climbing a tree and what a tree feels like, all the different sounds and senses that are outside in nature that you can experience, in addition to that dirt that we are playing in. Kids tend to love to put things in their mouths when they're little, and mother's first instinct is to say, don't do that. But all those things in the right environment, obviously in nature, and clean dirt, like when I say clean dirt, and it hasn't been contaminated with things that we don't want, but those microbes are really good for our gut microbiome. So sometimes a little bit of exposure to some dirt is a good thing for kids as well. So that's one of the things, is just getting outside in nature, getting a really good night's sleep, and which is rare these days, both for parents and for kids for lots of different reasons. But a lot of the practitioners that I've interviewed, that I talked to about what are the things that they really want parents to do when they're working with them. And there are some practitioners that won't even take parents on that have kids with neurodevelopmental challenges unless they do this, because they know it makes that big of a difference to their well-being, is removing things like the EMFs at night for sleep time, or creating an environment where they are protected from any of the EMFs that you might not be able to control. So there's lots of ways to do that. But the easiest one to do is doing things like unplugging the Wi-Fi router at night. And some people even go to the extent of throwing their breaker on their whole house and just turning the power off while people are sleeping. It's a big one, but not everybody can do that, but it's a strategy that they use. So we've talked about getting outside in nature, and also, moving our bodies and getting that sensory experience, getting some good sleep. The next one is hydration. So you probably talked a lot about having good mineralized clean water to drink on a regular basis. So that's just a very simple thing that everybody can do. Sometimes, do you guys love to drink water?
Yeah, even though like a lot of kids these days, they don't really like to drink water. So even adding like a little bit of flavor into it, like putting like lemon in it, will also kind of maybe spike up their interest.
Yeah, no, it's a really good idea. And we talk about doing things like finding something. Obviously, we try to do natural as much as possible. We're put some flavor in there. And even in some cases, the kids that really struggle still to drink the water, sometimes putting a little raw honey in it to sweeten it just that little bit. And it can make a difference between a child not wanting to drink water at all to drinking a bit of it from time to time. And then the next thing, obviously, is good whole foods, but doing it in a way that our blood sugar doesn't spike, right? So we don't want our blood sugar to go up and down, because then we end up feeling tired. It stresses our body as a whole. So we want to eat good whole foods with lots of fiber and a balance of protein, fat, and carbohydrates within each of our meals. So that way we keep a nice, stable blood sugar level throughout the day. And that gives you good energy levels throughout the day. So those are some of the basics, but they're the same things that I hear from practitioners all over the world, working with all different types of kids. It's the same message, which is there's some fundamental things that we all need to be doing to be healthy.
So what foods don't mess up your blood sugar?
Oh, that's a great question. So I would say that, we were just talking about so fats and proteins and carbohydrates. So a lot of it has to do with, obviously, having refined foods will typically spike your blood sugar. So what we want to do is stay in the whole food. So that's food that you get sort of at the perimeter typically of a grocery store. So it's going to be in the fruit and veggies section, and it's going to be the meats. And then you're going to look for, there's things like avocados for fats, and berries are great snacks, but we want to combine them so that when we are having something that might have a little bit more and even natural sugar in it, that we have a little bit of fat with that. Like, so I'm going to give you an example. A lot of kids love to eat bananas, and bananas are fabulous. They've got lots of good nutrients in them. Depending on how ripe they are, they can have certain types of starches that can help be a prebiotic to feed that good microbiome, but they can spike your blood sugar a bit if you have them all by yourself. But if you have a little bit of nut butter with them, so like almond butter or cashew butter with them. So we used to make like what we would call like little banana Oreos. You put the nut butter between two slices of banana and you could eat those. And that is a really good snack to have because you're getting good fats and some proteins from that nut butter, along with all the nutrients and some good starches and the sweetness of the banana. So that's a one example of way you can get a good combination.
In our house, we love to eat by going down the list. 1 veggies, 2 clean
Plain protein, 3 healthy fats, and then we notice that we also we stay full for a long time after we have those 3. And then sometimes we'll have like dessert, which is usually like some fruit or some really like these natural sweeteners, like honey, like you said, maybe these banana Oreos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Banana Oreos. Do you know you can also make banana pancakes? So you can make a lot. We used to do that a lot when we were doing, we were 100% grain free for a really long time in our family. And you just take bananas and a couple of eggs and mix them up in a Vitamix or a blender of some kind and put them on your fry pan with your good fat of choice. And we often would use ghee back in the day. So just the fat from butter, because some people are dairy intolerant. They can maybe tolerate ghee, or you can use some other type of stable fat that you can cook with as well. So but if you haven't tried banana pancakes, I highly recommend them. They're really easy to make.
And I bet they're really, really good too.
Yeah, good fat and protein and some sweetness.
We love doing that sometimes for breakfast in the morning.
Like something like so usually for breakfast, or at least on weekends, because I don't really get a good breakfast.
His lunch is his breakfast.
My lunch is technically my breakfast because I have to leave really, really early.
Yeah.
So and then
go.
Yeah, and then so yeah, usually for breakfast we have like pancakes and some cooked veggies, and then for us we eat like meat, but if you don't eat meat, obviously there are other proteins.
Preservatives.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that you have veggies with breakfast. So a lot of people don't think outside of the box like that. They think, oh, vegetables are only for lunch or for dinner, but you're absolutely right. There's no reason why you can't have them in the morning too.
So yeah, there are a lot of junk foods kids are exposed to in school. So how can they stay away from all of those stuff?
That is a really hard thing to do. And I think you guys probably know this. Like you probably watch your friends, and the only thing that we can do is educate them about what the impact those things can have, right? So you want to educate your friends about why there might be a better choice for them. But the other thing I do think we need to do is educate our school administrations and work on our food programs in school, because the reality is that when we see everybody else eating those things, it's really hard to say no to them. And most of those things probably taste very good because their processed foods are engineered to taste really good, and they literally engineered in labs a lot of the times with the flavorings and everything else, and that's why people keep on going back to them. So I think that we need to educate our friends, like you guys are doing right now, your peers, about what is healthy and why you might want to make a different choice. And usually with kids, it's motivated by what their friends are doing, but also what their goals are. So if you have a friend that really wants to do well in school, then they really need to eat well so they can fuel their brain and keep their energy sustained so they can focus in class and get their work done. If you have a friend who loves to play soccer or hockey or some other sport, they want to be the best one, have the most energy and do things well in the team, then they need to eat differently than the average person. So I think those are you have to find the why behind the reasoning behind why kids should make a different choice, and we need to educate them on that so they can make those great choices to support their goals.
So some kids are really tired when they come to school or not really feeling well. So how do they avoid not feeling well and coming to school more fresh?
So obviously the biggest thing is getting a good night's sleep. And one of the things we all need to do that, and parents need to model this for their kids as well, is shutting down those screen times. A lot of kids have to be on their computers for school these days because almost everything is done and submitted online, at least at the higher grade levels. They use Google Classroom and things like that to submit all their work. So they're going to be on their computers, but we want to shut those computer screens off at least an hour before they're going to bed, so they can have your brain knows that it's nighttime, and that's a lot of it. And some people also find that if they wear blue light blocking lenses into the evening, it also helps with that, especially if you have a kid that is up late doing work on a screen. So we're going to shut those screens down. We're going to create that environment in the bedroom, like we talked about, where you're trying to minimize or eliminate all the EMFs in a bedroom environment before you go to bed. Doing things like taking an Epsom salt bath in the evening helps everybody unwind, which is kind of a nice thing to be able to do. And then after they get the good night's sleep, you want to wake up in the morning and make sure you start hydrating. And then right away, start drinking some nice clean water. And then you want to have that great breakfast that you talked about earlier in order to give that energy to sustain them. Oops. Okay. I've lost sound from you guys. I can't hear you right now. But did you lose your mic or did I lose my volume? It happens. Oops. Well, while we're talking about that, maybe what we can just, we're waiting for everybody to come back. I'm not sure if anyone can still see me while I'm waiting for the host to come back. We can talk about what other things you can do in the morning in order to make sure that you start the day off right. I mean, part of it will also be that you'll want to have a good routine set up. So things are set up the night before, and that kids can actually they have a routine that's already set up for them the night before. That helps also people get a good start for the day. So if they're not rushing around and having to try to find all their things in the morning, I was just saying, while I was waiting for you guys to come back, there's some routines that you can set up too that can start the day off easier and less stressful for kids as they go off to school in the morning too.
So can you hear us now?
I
We
can
had a technical
have you back on your own show.
Yeah, we had technical difficulties.
Yes.
Happens to us all.
Yeah. The technology these days, it can be the best thing and it can be the worst thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
So is there any advice that you can give to kids to start doing it now?
Yeah. What is one thing that kids can start to do now, today?
Start to do right now. Okay. So
right now.
So one thing that every kid can start to do now, if they aren't hydrating, they can find themselves the very best, coolest water bottle that they can find, and fill it up with really good quality water. Find a way to drink water. That's the one thing I will say. Water. So there's a really great book by a gentleman, a doctor by the name of Dr. Behetman Galdi. I'm going to probably said his name wrong, and it's called "The Body's Many Cries for Water." And it was an Iranian doctor that was jailed, and he realized when he had no tools at all to help his fellow inmates when he was in jail, didn't have medicine. They didn't have any of the tools that a doctor would normally have to help his fellow inmates. And he found that hydration solved many chronic ailments that his fellow inmates were struggling from. So it's a really interesting book. It's a very different book, but it's one that they actually had us read when I went through for my nutritional training, and it's very interesting. So it's one of those things that everybody discounts, and we all know we're supposed to drink water, but it's so critical to cellular health. And all of our bodies are made up of all of these cells. That's the foundation of everything, all the tissues in our bodies that make up the organs, that make up the systems, that make us all human beings, that's why we're so much made up of water. So we want to make sure that hydration is there. So the trick that I always like to tell people is, one, find a water bottle that your kid loves to drink from and is more likely to drink from. There's lots of different options out there these days. And then in order to determine how much they are drinking in a day, every time they fill it up, you just put a rubber band around the outside of it, because then you can count the rubber bands at the end of the day and see if they've actually consumed water. And it's also kind of a good fun game to just roll a rubber band up, but an easy way to count how much water that you're having. So that's the number one thing I think almost everybody can do, because doesn't really, for most people, doesn't cost anything. And it's just something simple habit you can add to your day.
So thank you so much. This was so amazing, besides like all the technical difficulties. So please tell us more about you and your amazing work.
Oh, well, so you guys did a great job telling everyone about what I do, but we love to provide information, tools, and resources to parents of children that are having trouble with their neurodevelopment. So everything from autism all the way to learning disabilities. A lot of kids have a number of different things going on. So autism, ADHD, sensory processing disorder, as you mentioned. You can learn more at www.mychildwillthrive. You've got it up here on the screen. So thank you for that as well. And we have a toolkit that you can sign up for free. The reason I created My Child Will Thrive was to help parents that were like myself, that had a child that they weren't developing typically. And I just really wanted her to thrive. So that's why, and I was determined, which is why it says My Child Will Thrive. And you just aren't going to stop until you get there. And that particular child of mine is now 19. She's in college and doing really well in school. And these were things that a lot of people didn't think that she would be able to achieve. So through her hard work and dedication, in addition to all the different things, we found that we were possible to help change the brain and activate positive neuroplasticity, and those possibilities are there for all the kids out there that are hoping to thrive too.
So thank you so much, Miss Tara. This has given us so much hope that there is so much we can do to change the brain.
Well, thank you guys for doing this show and bringing such vital information to all the generations, so that everyone can start really young to make sure they're supporting their health and wellness.
So let's recap Miss Tara's key points. Our environment has changed. We are surrounded with so many toxins in our environment and our food. We need to start thriving by simple things we do every day.
We need to get out into the nature and get light exposure. We love to climb trees, and you can even play in the dirt. So bugs in the clean and dirt is a good thing.
So get a good night's sleep. We need to lower the EMF by putting the phones on airplane mode. Take an Epsom salt bath in the evening. And also make sure to drink water, especially in the morning, and make sure to drink filtered water. Adding a little bit of raw honey can help us to drink more water. Get the coolest water bottle you can find and fill it up to drink lots of water.
Eat whole foods so your blood sugar doesn't spike. Refined foods can spike your blood sugar. We like to go down the list: veggies, clean protein, and healthy fats. Then we have some fruit. That keeps us full for a long time.
When we see everything else when we see everyone else eating those things, it's kind of hard to say no to them, as they are engineered to keep us addicted. We need to educate our friends, so please share our podcast with your friends and parents. Please check out Miss Tara's podcast today. We need to educate the world. Wow, Miss Tara, that was amazing. We are so thankful for your wisdom and time today.
So thankful.
So thankful.
So thankful.
So thankful. So thankful.
I love the gratitude. Thank you again for all you do. This is an amazing show. I'm so glad I got a chance to be here with you.
So thank you for everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
I'm Ahmad.
And I'm Qasim.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom MD, and look out for Moms with Holistic Arts. She has a lot of them, including the Holistic Arts, Guide to Chronic Inflammation and Disease in the Changing World, and so kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.